Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to the Skills 360 podcast. I'm your host, Tim Simmons, and today I want to look at how to run an effective brainstorming session. Every company uses brainstorming sessions to generate ideas and solve problems. But do all brainstorming sessions generate good ideas? Does everyone leave a brainstorming session feeling like they've accomplished something? Well, that often depends on the facilitator. And if you are the one to run the show, there are several things you need to think about. First comes good preparation. People need to head into a brainstorming session with a good idea about what they're supposed to be talking about. So if you're going to be running the session, don't keep the topic a mystery. Email everyone well in advance. Make sure people come with a head full of ideas. If they don't know what they'll be doing until they arrive, they may not be as prepared. Now, what happens when you start that meeting when everyone's assembled and your job is to get things going? Well, you need to set the stage for a productive session, and one great way to do that is to set some ground rules. You might want to create a list of your own that includes things like turn off cell phones and no judgment. Or you might want to let the group brainstorm their own list. Let them determine what guidelines will ensure they feel safe and free to share ideas. Either way, you should write these guidelines down and display them for everyone to see. But remember, good brainstorming happens when people feel creative, free, and happy. So don't get too hard-nosed or serious by making a bunch of rules. Once you've got some guidelines, now you can pose the question or topic for the group. Right at the beginning, make sure you're encouraging and setting a positive tone. When someone produces an idea, respond with, "Fantastic! Thanks, Ron. Let's put that up here." That helps create the right mood, and hopefully, soon ideas will start flowing more freely. Once they do, don't interfere. Your job is to record and to maintain the energy. Keep praising people with comments like, "Great stuff, Nora," and "Right on, Wayne." Okay, but sometimes people don't express things perfectly clearly. And when this happens, you need to get some clarification. You can do this in a couple of ways. You can straight up ask for an explanation, like this. "All right, Todd, thanks. Can you explain what you mean a bit more?" Notice that we are still thanking and praising. You can also try restating what the person said to test an interpretation. For example, you could say something like, "Okay, Todd, thanks. So you're saying that we need to hire more staff. Is that right?" Either way, don't get too bogged down in explanation. You just want things to be clear enough that everyone knows basically what's being suggested. Now, one of the most important principles of brainstorming is that we should separate idea generation from idea evaluation. So producing ideas and judging them are done separately. Brainstorming is all about the former, not the latter. So when someone says something like, "I don't know, Todd, that probably wouldn't help at this point," you need to step in, but you should do it diplomatically, like this. "Okay, Todd, let's just focus on getting the ideas out for now, and later we can take a closer look. Sound good?" What happens when people start evaluating ideas? They stop flowing, and that's not what we want. It doesn't matter how bad, silly, or crazy the ideas are. Keep the energy going. Keep praising the participants. and keep writing things down. Those bad, silly, or crazy ideas can spark better, saner, more realistic ideas. And at the end of the day, the more ideas there are, the better. And you can move on to evaluating, paring down, and choosing later. So remember, stay positive, keep the energy flowing, praise the participants, and don't let people get too critical. If you can achieve all this, you'll have a great brainstorming session. Of course, getting people to talk is not always easy. Tune in next time, and you'll hear some tips for getting things going and some help with the evaluation stage. That's all for today. So long. Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Simmons, and you're listening to Business Skills 360. Glad you could join me today for the second part in our look at achieving your goals. Today, I'm going to talk about how to maintain your focus and motivation while you work toward achieving your goals. Let me start off with a quote from the well-known business guru, Robert Allen. Allen said, "The future you see is the future you get." What he's talking about is visualization, which is necessary for achieving your goals. You have to visualize yourself or your organization accomplishing whatever it is you've set out to do. This is what many professional athletes do before a big competition. They walk through the match and imagine themselves winning. Let me repeat it for you. The future you see is the future you get. This is one way of helping you maintain motivation, but there are others. One other way is through a system of rewards. Of course, when you finally reach your goal, there is a great payoff, which could be a sense of accomplishment, greater profits, better working relationships, whatever your goal is related to. But that great payoff may not be enough to sustain you, especially when you're working toward long-term goals. Remember how I mentioned in the last episode that you need to establish milestones or benchmarks along the way. Now, what you need to do is to attach rewards to those milestones. What kind of rewards? Well, that depends on the type of goal. If it's a personal goal, you could reward yourself with something fun, like a night out, or by buying something you really want. If it's an organizational goal, then maybe you need to reward all the people involved. For example, you could throw a party or give bonuses. Those rewards and incentives will help everyone stay on track and give them something real to look forward to. Now, visualization and a system of rewards both help people remember that they've set goals. The mistake that many people and organizations make is to set goals and then promptly forget about them. That's wrong. You and your employees or colleagues should be keeping your goals in mind whenever you do something. You need to remind yourself or your people of your goals. This could mean writing them down, posting them on the staff room wall, or having regular updates. In an organizational setting, goals may have their own communication plans. If you have set goals that depend on the work of other people, those people should know about it. For example, imagine you are a regional sales manager and decide that you want to increase sales by 15% in the next quarter. Who are you going to tell? Well, the salespeople, of course. You need to let them know that there is a clear or SMART goal in place and that you want them to work together to achieve it. Then, you need to check in on their progress, update the entire team, and remind them what they're shooting for. So, do all of these strategies guarantee success? Are these tactics foolproof? Of course not. I'm telling you right now that there will be bumps along the way. You will experience setbacks, and there will be days when the goal appears farther away than the day before. This is normal. A common mistake is to give up on a goal when mistakes are made or problems occur. You need to see these setbacks as opportunities to refocus. Look at what happened. Figure out the reason for the setback, and then you will have improved your chance of success. Failure is not falling down. Failure is staying down. Great. Remember that achieving your goal is a process, not an event. It takes time, energy, motivation, and the ability to deal with adversity. It doesn't happen all at once. But if you set good goals, manage them well, find the right time and resources, and maintain motivation and momentum, you'll get there. That's all for now. Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to the Skills 360 podcast. I'm your host, Tim Simmons. And today, I want to look at how you can make your ideas stick. Just the other day, one of my coworkers came to me and said, "I've got a killer idea for a new app." Then he went on to say that, well, I don't remember exactly what he said. There was something about productivity and something about scheduling, I think. Let's face it, ideas are a dime a dozen. And just having a great idea doesn't mean a thing if you can't get other people to believe in it. And before you can get anyone to believe in it, you need to help them remember it. You need to make it stick. So today, I want to share a couple of tips for helping your ideas stick. It doesn't matter if you're giving a presentation, proposing something in a meeting, or pitching to investors. The secrets to stickiness are the same. The first thing you need to do is keep it real. For one thing, that means avoiding abstract nouns. Think about the word solution. It means zip if you don't tell people exactly what the problem is and how you're solving it. And don't try to awe people with the word innovation. Impress them by describing what it is that's actually innovative about your idea. And for Pete's sake, don't say that your tool will enhance predictive capabilities, when you can say it will help you predict the future better. That last example shows you something important. Verbs have much more power and clarity than nouns. I mean, why say that the new regulations led to the destruction of the industry when you can just say they destroyed the industry? Why say make a decision when you can just say decide? That may seem like a small difference, but when you start piling on all those abstract or academic words, people's eyes will glaze over. They'll stop listening, and your idea will have no chance of sticking. To test whether you're keeping it real, ask yourself, am I talking about people or about ideas? People are real. The things they do are real. And most people are interested in themselves and other people. For example, think about this statement. The executive announcement of spending cuts provoked a strongly negative reaction. Where are the people in that statement? It's much stickier to say, When the CEO announced spending cuts, people reacted poorly. Better yet, be more specific and say, people complained angrily. Can you feel the difference? There's one more part of keeping it real that I want to tell you about. Remember back at the start of this lesson when I talked about my coworker with the forgettable mobile app idea? Yes, well, it turns out that stories help ideas stick. Telling stories helps us focus on people rather than ideas. It forces us into concrete reality and away from that abstract hocus-pocus of innovation, efficiency, and optimization. Stories are an amazing way to transmit information. People have been doing it for thousands of years. And as I explained in a previous lesson, stories help you connect with your listeners. Now, besides keeping it real, I've got another related bit of advice for you. Keep it relevant. Last week, on a business trip, I was hanging out in the lobby of my hotel, and I got to talking with a guy from England. He was really eager to tell me about his big idea and why I should invest in it. And he started out by describing the economic problems in his hometown. Honestly, I couldn't quite wrap my head around what he was talking about. Then he really lost me when he started using a bunch of soccer analogies. I mean, football analogies, as he would say. I don't know the first thing about soccer. Needless to say, I didn't invest in the guy's big idea. I mean, what does it have to do with me? I really didn't see how it was relevant to my life. And because he didn't make his idea relevant to me, I can't even tell you exactly what his big idea was. It didn't stick. The only thing that was really significant to me was his failure to connect. I remember him talking about his hometown and about soccer because it amazed me that he thought I might be interested. So, how can you keep it relevant? Talk to people about their own lives and work. Tell them what your idea could mean to them. And use idioms and metaphors that they understand or can relate to. I talked a lot about metaphors in another lesson. Metaphors can be really powerful, but only if you're connecting with your listeners. If that guy in the hotel lobby talked about an economic problem that affects my hometown, and if he pulled out some baseball metaphors, things might have been different. His idea might have actually stuck. And I might be able to tell you what his big idea was, but instead, his idea bounced right off of me. All right, I've gone over 2 very important ways of making your ideas stick. First of all, keep it real. That means using concrete language about the real world and real people. And it means telling stories. Secondly, keep it relevant. Talk about things that your listeners actually know or care about. Doing these 2 things will give you a leg up. And if you tune in next time, I'll give you 2 more tips that will help make your ideas stick. That's all for today. If you'd like to test yourself on what we've just covered, have a look at the businessenglishpod.com website. There you'll find a quiz about today's show, as well as a complete transcript. So long, and see you again soon. Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to the Skills 360 podcast. I'm your host, Tim Simmons, and today, I want to look at making your ideas stick. Have you ever been in a meeting or listened to a presentation where someone talks about their big idea, and then 40 PowerPoint slides later, you're still not quite sure what they're talking about or why their idea is so great? Well, there might be a good idea somewhere behind it all, but for some reason, it didn't stick. On the flip side, there are ideas that you couldn't forget if you wanted to. For whatever reason, people understand them, they remember them, and they get behind them. The ones that stick are the exceptions. Business history is littered with ideas for products or business models that never became popular. So what's the difference? Why do some ideas stick while others die a sad death? In our last lesson, I talked about keeping it real and keeping it relevant. Those are two important ways of increasing stickiness. Today, I want to focus on keeping it simple and keeping it dynamic. Let's start with keeping it simple. That deck of 40 PowerPoint slides, there are probably just 4 or 5 in there that convey the core of your idea. The rest is fluff. Now, you might be thinking that you need details and explanation to support your idea. That's true, but you need to prioritize those points. Combine them. Support your idea with 3 smaller ideas, not 39. Ideally, you should be able to express your idea in a single sentence. The founder of Uber once described his idea like this. You push a button, and in 5 minutes, a Mercedes picks you up and takes you where you want to go. The company later simplified that even more to tap a button, get a ride. You'll notice that there's no buzzwords there. There's no talk of platform or users or even app. It's just a simple description of a great idea. So use simple sentences and simple words. Sometimes it helps to use common reference points in your one-sentence idea. For example, a new dating app called Stitch is touted as Tinder for seniors. Everyone knows Tinder, so Stitch can use that knowledge to make their idea clear. Besides keeping it simple, you need to keep it dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? I mean, make it surprising and fresh and engage multiple senses or emotions. This is especially true for presentations. You can't use the same template for every purpose. Getting your new idea to stick isn't the same as making sure a team of managers understands the sales figures from the first quarter. When you're presenting information, you might follow the standard pattern of tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you've told them. That might work for some purposes, but it's not a really sticky format. You've got to get people's attention, then keep it. Start by saying something that's never been said before. Wake your listeners up with a shocking fact, a mystery, or a bit of humor. Appeal not just to their rational brains, but their hearts. and give them a visual that enhances the shock or the mystery or the humor. Think of music. A good song has changes in volume and intensity. It includes some repetition. Just think of the chorus and the melody. But if it has only one emotional level, it won't have impact. And think of a whole album of songs. If you still listen to albums, you've got to mix up the dance numbers with the ballads. At the same time, you need to work around the melody and chorus. If you're using PowerPoint, don't completely change the formatting on every slide. That just confuses people. You need to make it dynamic, but not chaotic. It needs to be exciting, but still unified. Now, I want to talk for just a moment about someone who really knows about stickiness, Steve Jobs. It was just over 10 years ago that he introduced the MacBook Air. How did he do it? Well, he chose to emphasize one simple feature, how thin it was. And he did that in a fresh and dynamic way. During his presentation, he picked up a simple manila folder and showed it to the audience. Then he pulled the MacBook Air out of it. Simple, surprising, and effective. And that's what you should strive for as you keep it simple and keep it dynamic. And if you also keep it real and relevant, as I explained last time, there's a good chance your idea will stick rather than ending up in the trash can of history. That's all for today. If you'd like to test yourself on what we've just covered, have a look at the businessenglishpod.com website. There, you'll find a quiz about today's show, as well as a complete transcript. So long, and see you again soon.